again, I'm Megan Beatie. My company is Megan Beatie Communications. I work out of Los Angeles. I've been getting visibility for authors in the media for, I think it's 25 years, more than 25 years now. I grew up, as Maddie said, I grew up in a farming family in Ventura County. I'm fifth generation Californian. If you've been up to Moore Park, my family farm is Underwood Family Farms. And I thought I wanted to be an author, and then I decided really I wanted to work in the business of publishing. So I did a course, there was a summer course back in 1996 called the Radcliffe Publishing Course, and young college graduates would go there and learn the business of publishing. And they would have, it was incredible. The course would bring in all these top executives from New York Publishing to talk about what they do. And Carol Schneider was the executive director of publicity at the time of Random House, and she came and she talked about what publicity was, and it was like a light bulb went off in my head. I thought, that is my calling, that is what I want to do. I was a cheerleader in high school, and so the idea of championing books and authors was really just really what I wanted to do. So I got a job in New York working for the director of publicity for Putnam, and Putnam at the time published Dick Francis, Robert B. Parker, Patricia Cornwell, Alice Hoffman, like every big author of that time. And if you've seen the movie The Devil Wears Prada, like that was my life as an assistant. Like I watched that movie and had PTSD because that's what it was like. But I went on to Goldberg McDuffie, which was a book PR firm, and really one of the only book PR firms at the time, because it was just really unusual for an author to hire their own publicist. I mean, you get a book deal and your publisher would do all the marketing and do all the publicity, and you would sit back and let the reviews roll in. So I worked for Goldberg for many years. September 11th happened. I was desperate to get back to California, close to my family. And back in 2001, it was unusual to do anything to do with the business of books outside of New York. But my boss said, you know, I think they read in California. Go see how you do, little girl. And it was great. I mean, I set up in Los Angeles. I had my kind of New York sensibility, so I knew the landscape of New York. I knew how to deal with the New York publishers and the media, but then I also was able to expand on Los Angeles media and all the authors who are here in Southern California. So it's been really great. 8 years ago, I started my own business because I wanted to work on books that I cared about, that I believed in, and have autonomy. So here I am. And so I want to talk about now, first of all, think about how people find out about books, because you can write the best book in the world, but if no one knows about it, no one's going to buy it, no one's going to read it. So I kind of see the three ways people find out about books. The first is kind of the word of mouth. You have a friend who says, this is a great book, here it is. You go to the librarian recommends it. Then there's traditional media, where you listen to an interview on NPR and you hear an author talk about his book or her book, and you say, oh my God, that sounds amazing, I want to read it. You read a review in the New York Times. You read a feature in the LA Times about an author who sounds interesting and you want to read that book. And then social media, where there are people who are using their bookstagrams and their book talk and their Facebook pages to pretty much champion books that they are loving. And they have so many followers that they're really reaching a wide number of people at one time. So we as publicists are trying to hit all three of those ways. Publicity, it's interesting, when authors come to me and want to hire me to do a campaign, they say, I want to hire you because I want to be a New York Times bestseller. And I say, I'm not for you, because there's just, it just doesn't work that way. I use the analogy of you can go the marketing route, because publicity and marketing are very different. Publicity is basically selling with no money exchanged. And marketing, you're paying to have your book exposed wherever it is. Publicity is really about, it's sales with no money. You're trying to convince someone who has an audience, whether it be on the radio or on their Facebook page or in the New York Times. You're trying to convince them that the book and the author that you're talking about has value to their audience, has interest to them and value to their audience. So you have to sell them on it. You have to show why this book is different, is interesting, how the author fits into whatever's going on in the news, what's unusual about it. Is there any anniversary that makes sense that the journalist might want to tie into? So it's frustrating. There's no guarantee, and I tell every author who I work with, the only thing I can guarantee is I will work my butt off. I will be relentless. I will try everything viable for you, but can I guarantee 10 radio interviews? Can I guarantee a review in People magazine? I can't guarantee anything, because I'm only as good as the book that I'm representing. And even so, great books just may not connect with the media person. So it's an investment to hire someone for publicity. And it's something you have to think of as, a long-term investment with whatever you do with publicity, because it takes time. I think of the example of Jodi Picoult. I'm sure you all know who Jodi Picoult is. #1 New York Times bestseller every time her book comes out. Well, my agency, Goldberg McDuffie, worked with her for her first 20 years of being published. So one of my bosses at the time, Camille McDuffie, was her publicist for her first book, her second book, her 5th book, her 10th book. And for her first book, she was nobody. No one knew who she was. She was not a bestseller. But what my boss did is she kept chipping away. So Jodi Picoult was someone who could write really wonderful novels that were meaningful to people and also had some sort of connection with what was going on. She had this sixth sense. She wrote a novel that had to do with with a Catholic priest molesting someone before that news broke all those years ago. And so she got national interview coverage as a result of it. But Jodi was really someone who, book after book, she just got more and more publicity, more reviews, more attention, built her audience, and it just took time. It's just interesting. So many authors who, kind of burst on the scene seemingly have really been working over time to become these instant New York Times bestsellers. So, yeah, when you're about to be published, you may be with Penguin Random House, and they have in-house publicity, and they may do it for you. Or you may be with a really small publishing house that just doesn't have the bandwidth to go out and get reviews and figure out how to get you interviews and all those things. So you can hire someone to help you. What I know you all want to know is what you can do yourself. So we're going to get into that. You can follow along in the handout. But yeah, I really wanted to kind of break down what first of all is essential for you to do, and then things you can do without crossing the line. Because at VoucherCon the other day, I was on a marketing panel, And Aline Cogdill of the South Florida Sun Sentinel was on the panel with me. She's a really prestigious reviewer. She reviews mysteries. Her reviews are syndicated. She's really important, especially, if you're a mystery writer. So what she said is, she said, I don't want to hear from authors directly because I want that distance between, I want to work only with professionals. So, and I did get into that at the end of the handout about the don'ts, but, so let's kind of work through the handout, and I'm going to kind of talk through, I said developing your brand, and I feel like brand is a little bit, everyone should have a brand, but a brand might seem a little, not artsy or not literary, but the truth is every author should and needs to have a brand. You need to know who you are, even if you're a mystery writer, if you're a literary writer, if you're a commercial fiction writer, or if you're writing different things, you've got to figure out who you are and who you want to be. And I think a great way to kind of map your path is to look at authors who you admire and who you think you're similar to. And follow them, stalk them, look at their website, follow them on social media, go to their events, see how they do, because they've obviously figured things out if they're, the high-profile best-selling authors that they are. Take a good author photo. I think with iPhones, we feel like, oh, good enough, I'll just have my sister take it. I've seen many authors who are writing dark mysteries, who will do these photos where they're cozied up with their cats and smiley and looking so cute. You don't, if you're a mystery writer, you want to have darkness and atmosphere. You want to have a leather jacket or, whatever it is to kind of define that you're writing edgy thrillers. If you're writing adorable cozies, then definitely the cat. But I really recommend spending the money to do a professional author photo shoot and have someone do your makeup, do your hair, wear a nice outfit. That was one thing that struck me at BoucherCon. There were a lot of authors who were on these panels who looked like they had rolled out of bed. And maybe they had, but when you're on stage, you should look good. When you're in a photo that's you or your publicist is sending out, it's on your website, you want to look your very best. And so getting to the website. The website is the most important online thing you can do. If you're terrified about social media, we'll talk about social media, but you must have a website, because I know that's what I do when I'm interested in a book or an author. That's the first thing I do is I search the author's name and I look at their website. So it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to have moving graphics or tons of bells and whistles, but you have to have basic information. You want to have your photo, your bio, your book, a description, and then buy links, and not just Amazon. Give options. You want to have bookshop.org. You want to have Amazon. You want to have B&N. Have your local bookstore. You can go, and we'll talk about bookstores in a second, but that's a great way if you live, if you live in Pasadena and Vroman's is your local bookstore. They ship everywhere. Put that, as a place where people could order your book and maybe even order signed copies. You can go in and sign copies if you make those arrangements. But the website is, and have a way that someone can contact you. And you don't put your personal email, but create a Gmail that, Megan Beatie Author at gmail.com, so that whoever is going to your website has a way to reach you, whether it to be, ask you to come to a book club or attend a festival or whatever it might be. You just always want to make that really, really easy. And then, of course, if you're doing social media, you want to have all those links so they can follow you on Facebook or Instagram or whatever you're doing. And then book clubs, you want to do some sort of like book club discussion guide, PDF that's downloadable. Put that on your website and say, you know, contact me for, you know, I'm available for book club visits. Contact me and we'll do a Zoom. You know, one of the benefits of what we went through with COVID is that people are really much more tuned into Zoom, and so many book clubs are having the authors Zoom in for visits. So that's really a great way to connect with readers and talk about your book. And you don't need to leave your house. But make sure you look good. Don't just, you know, roll out of bed for it. You know, look good. I think that's, you know, I can't emphasize that enough because I've just seen so many authors not do it. Always look good. You are on stage whenever you're in the public eye as an author, and you want to look your best. I think of I was at the LA Times Book Festival last year with Adriana Trigiani, who's a fantastic, larger-than-life personality, and she was just dressed to the nines. She had this like gorgeous powder blue suit on, and her hair was piled up, and she, you know, you could not look at her, and she was on stage with this panelists, and the rest of them were just like kind of like this and in their jeans, and you know, she just lit up the room. So you know, always think about that. So mailing list. Okay, so that is something that you can do through your website. So you can do, like, your website designer can set it up so there's like a pop-up when someone comes to your website and they have the option to sign up for your mailing list. And the reason why this is really important is because with social media, there's the algorithms, and you're just not guaranteed of whatever you put out on social media that your audience is going to see it. But with the mailing list, that's opt-in, and please keep it opt-in. I can't tell you how many people have added me to their mailing list just because they got my email address. So make sure that whoever's on it has chosen to be on it, and they will be, you know, dedicated to you. You know, you don't want to take advantage of it and send them a newsletter like every other week, but it's a great way to send out occasional newsletters. My new book is coming out. Here's my tour. Hope you'll come out for it. And those are email addresses that, you know, are going to get it and hopefully, you know, open it up when they receive it from you. So social media, I think, you know, that's, you know, everyone's like, who's on what? Now there's Threads. Do we do that? Twitter's now X. Is anyone still on X? I don't know. I think what you got to do is first of all, excuse me, social media is not going to sell your book. So don't do social media with the intent of, I want to sell my book, and I'm going to do it by going, me, my book, review. Like, social media is about being authentic and being interesting, and not just viewing it as a marketing tool. And I don't recommend doing all of them. I recommend picking what you feel the most comfortable with and you feel like you can really engage with, and it's fun. Like, Instagram is all about visuals and images, and there's a lot of positivity for the most part on it. I'm all about Bookstagram. I think there are some fantastic people who are doing really interesting things, and I work with a wide number of Bookstagrammers who have, like, I mean, they can have 500,000 followers, and they'll, you know, do a post. What I do with them is I'll say, are you interested in this book? And here's why. And they'll say, sounds great. Send me an ARC or Galley, which is the advanced copy, which has, you know, usually it's the advanced copy has the jacket of the book on it. So when they get it, they'll post it ahead of publication date with like a little what it's about, and that can be, you know, really great for building advanced buzz, because you want people to be thinking about your book before it comes out. So it's not like you want to just kind of wait and have this like big, like everyone talking about your book on pub date. You want to build up to it. So yeah, I really, I recommend deciding what you like to do when it comes to social media, and then again, following people who are doing it really well. I work with Maureen Johnson, who's a New York Times bestselling YA mystery author, and she was an early adoptee of Twitter when it was Twitter, and she got like on this list of like the top 150 people who were doing Twitter right way back in the day when Twitter was the chick. But you follow her. I think she's Maureen Johnson. She's sort of migrated more over to Instagram, but why she has almost 200,000 followers is because she's really funny and she's really generous with her platform. And what that means is she supports other authors, she cheers on other books, and she also takes on a lot of social justice causes that are meaningful to her, and uses her platform to amplify support for those causes.
Can you say your name again?
Sure, Maureen Johnson. Her website is maureenjohnsonbooks.com, I think, and she also writes fantastic YA mysteries too. So I think she's a great example. But yeah, I think people like Maureen Johnson have the followers who are so dedicated, because when she does post about her book, everyone jumps on board, excited, sharing, reposting, amplifying. So she's really built that trust and loyalty over time. So again, social media can sell your book, but is not. You should just never do social media with the intent, like, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to sell my book this way. So let's see. Highlighting visuals. So again, like talking about Instagram, very visual. Facebook too. I think just in general in social media, visuals, video, images and video get more engagement than just like, I'm sure you've had friends who do like this long post that is just so much you want to just keep scrolling through. So visuals are great. I think it can be, you can do a cover reveal, which is, basically just announcing your book, posting that on your social media pages. And then going along with when you are marketing your book on social media, I really recommend working with someone to create graphics. So because like Instagram has a certain size and Facebook has a certain size of the graphic, and I'm sure you've seen them where it's like, it has the jacket and it says, book publishing October 1st and come see me at, Skylight Books or whatever it is. So to have those nice graphics is really helpful to catch eyes on X, on Facebook, and on Instagram. And Canva is actually a great do-it-yourself. You can go, I think there's a free account and then more expensive for more access. But I know a lot of authors use Canva very well, doing the graphics themselves. But there are plenty of professionals you can hire. And I just thought you could contact your local university or college and see if there are any graphic design students who you could pay probably not very much to for the experience of doing designs for you. But again, like if you follow authors, you'll see the kind of graphics they're doing, and you'll get an idea of kind of what you want to include. Let's see. So just other things that you can do. Start your own media outlet. Many authors are doing their own Substack where it's just an opportunity. You build up subscribers, and it's another way to do a newsletter. Medium also has kind of it's sort of like a blog platform, but you can set up your own Medium and post articles there. Many authors are doing their own podcasts. And I think a few really good examples. Sarah DeVello has been doing mystery and thriller mavens on as a Facebook Live. She does it in partnership with Murder by the Book, which is a mystery bookstore in Houston. And she's been doing it, I think, for 3 or so years. And she's had every mystery author you can imagine. I mean, she's had David Baldacci, she's had Robert Dugoni, she's had Lee Goldberg, she's had Karen Slaughter, just all the biggest best-selling names. She does this Facebook Live. It's really engaging conversation with the author. It's always Monday nights. And how that has helped her is 3 years later, her own mystery came out, and she had her pick of every author to contact, to ask for a blurb, to be in conversation with her in events, to support her book and champion it on social media. So, I mean, obviously that's a lot of work, and you have to want to love the interview and the commitment and all the things. She's worth following too, because she's great on social media. It's Sarah DIVELL, but Facebook Live, Adriana Trigiani, she's doing a live show every Tuesday on her Facebook page, and she gets like hundreds of attendees every week. So, which continues to expand her profile as an author. And positioning yourself as an expert. If you're an expert, you know, if you have a background in forensics and now you've written a mystery, can you kind of jump over to the nonfiction side? Even though you've written fiction, can you write something, an article that's tied into the news that you could contact, you know, see if the LA Times wants an op-ed, or have a really great mystery website like Criminal Element publish it. There's always, you know, I work on so much fiction and a little bit of nonfiction, but what's the challenge with fiction is really kind of getting the author onto the news media. So, you know, the NBCs and the CNNs and the NPRs and everything. So when you, as an author, if you can make that leap, and you know, it's almost like you bring your book along with you, but you position yourself as an expert in whatever your topic is that's in the book, that can be kind of a way to get the book attention, but you're, you know, offering your expertise to the media outlet. So my second section about promoting your book, you know, I always want you to think about who your audience is, because some authors I've worked with just, you know, they want to be all things to all people. Like, my book is great for seniors, and it's also great for teenagers, and, you know, for men, for women, for, you know, everyone in between. And it's just, you gotta pick a lane. You gotta, sure, wonderful if your book, you know, takes off like, you know, Lessons in Chemistry, which I think, you know, that book was targeted as a, you know, I hate this term, women's fiction, but, you know, women's fiction book club book, but it has ignited because it does have appeal to all kinds of readers. But I think you really do want to think about who your readers are, and then figure out how to find them. As Maddie said, I work on a lot of children, and when I first was kind of starting in young adult fiction, I had this young nanny who's 20 or something, and I said, how do you find out about books? And, you know, because I was trying to figure out, like, trace the path. So she said, I watch the Today Show, what my friends recommend to me on Facebook, and I think she had one other. But she was really more about social media. I mean, I'm sure you've heard about TikTok, because when the New York Times writes about how TikTok sells books, every author I work with said, what do I do? How do I get on TikTok? And TikTok can really sell books, but it's because the readers on TikTok are have fallen in love with a book and then are just going bananas over it. Not because authors are going, doing little videos and being like, my book, my book, my book. It's really about those readers. I kind of touched on author blurbs. Author blurbs, very important, especially if it's your debut book. And traditionally, that used to be the author's editor or agent would use their network to ask for blurbs. And it's just, it's become less of that. So it really has, like so much in publishing is falling on the author. And so I, again, like if you know someone, if you have a connection to another author, you can work that connection. But a lot of times just writing a really nice email to the author's website can do the trick. Because best-selling authors were once a debut author and they remember. So if they can, often they will. Like I worked with a debut novelist, Nancy Crochet, her novel is called Graceland, and she was just such a go-getter, and she's like, I'm gonna write to Leanne Moriarty, who you probably know wrote The Husband's Secret and a bunch of other books. Yeah, so she wrote to Leanne, I think it's Leanne or Leon, and asked her, and she said, absolutely, and she wrote her this fantastic blurb. And that was a big, a huge push for the book because so many readers love her, and her name is not on every book. Like, there's some authors who will blurb every book. I think Lee Child is amazing, and I love him, but he does blurb every book. I mean, I got a blurb. I was working with one author, and the Lee Child blurb was, really great book, Lee Child. So that's all to say, like, when it's a rare blurb from a big author, it's really meaningful and it makes people pay attention. So get to know your local bookstore. Shop at the store. Go to the store. Say hi to the booksellers. Chat them up. When your book is about to come out, months before your book is going to come out, go by and take a galley and talk to the booksellers and tell them what it's about and take treats, take cookies, woo them. And I've been working with an author who's published by a really, really small publisher, and they have not been able to do anything except put a book together to put out in the world. And her name is Virginia Pye. Her book comes out in October, and all summer long she got 100 galleys, and she went to every bookstore in New England. Her book is set she lives in Cambridge, her book is set in Boston, and she went to like 50 bookstores and took treats and took galleys and talked to people. And I mean, she has an unbelievable bookstore schedule this fall. She's doing like 30 events because the stores appreciated the personal touch, and they read the book, and it's a good book, and they wanted to schedule her. So I can't emphasize enough, like, don't forget the bookstores, and we need them, and many of them are struggling. And I tell you, every time I go to a book signing for one of my authors, I always buy at least 3 books because we have to do everything we can to support the stores. Marketing materials. So this is really important. Pre-pub, as soon as your book is going to be published, have I think it's like postcards.com, but there are really easy ways to just make like that lovely bookmark of Christine's, like something that can be your calling card that you can have a stack of and you can give out wherever you go before your book's coming out. That has the book cover, has publishing information, has your website address, when the book is coming out, and then you can revise it. If you do a postcard, you can revise it when you're going to be doing bookstore appearances and put those on it. And you can do things the old-fashioned way and mail them out, which I think old-fashioned mail sometimes can get more attention these days because people aren't using it. Grassroots outreach. Yeah, this is something, when I first start working with authors, I say to them, okay, tell me everyone you know. Who do you know from, you went to college with them and now they're writing for the LA Times, or it's amazing. Like when you really start to think about your network, you'll find you may have media connections or people who are now on boards at the LA Public Library or whatever it may be. But it's so much about who you know and working those connections. And that's one of the things I do with my authors is when we talk through, okay, who do you know, and then how can we strategically nicely ask them to help us with whatever we need in terms of getting the book, on as part of an author talk at the library or whatever it may be. And local. I think, especially if you live in a smaller market, I think Los Angeles is always tricky, but like for example, Lee Goldberg, he lives in Calabasas, and there's a lot of local media around where he lives. There's the Acorn, and there's some other outlets, and his book is very local. Like his book is set basically in the neighborhood where he lives, so he gets a lot of coverage in these local papers because they're so excited to support an author who's in their backyard. So just an aside, interesting how Publicity works story about Lee Goldberg. So he writes really like thrillers, turn the page thrillers, and he has one series that was about a mystery writer who the books he was writing were actually coming true, and Lee ended up getting a lot of national media attention. He was on KTLA Morning News, the New York Post, Daily Mail, because he had burglars trying to break into his home, and he posted it on his Facebook page, and then the media all went bananas and wanted to interview him. So if you do a search for Lee Goldberg, you can watch the footage. It's pretty gnarly. It's these 4 burglars dressed all in black that he caught on his Ring camera trying to sneak in and break into his house. And so he did KTLA Morning News sitting there with his book jackets like, yes, here's the stories I write about crime, and then here's crime in reality happening. So he's someone who's really made the most of local attention. So this would seem obvious, but so many people, authors, whatnot, don't do it. Say thank you. I do my best to, when I'm getting reviews and interviews scheduled for my authors, and they happen, I do my best to always say thank you to whoever wrote it, to whoever scheduled it, because no one really is talking or promoting books or even for the money. They are doing it because they love books. And so you just always want to show your appreciation, and it matters, and it makes a difference when you say thank you. So it can be a little email. I've worked with authors who write handwritten notes to every bookstore who hosts them, which I think is a lovely idea. But just be sure that you say thank you. So on the handout, I listed a few things you shouldn't do, which, I touched on this before. You really shouldn't write to, Boris Kochka is the LA Times book editor. You as the author should not be writing to him. There's a reason why there are book publicists, and professional media want to deal with the professionals. There's a distance, and they know that professional publicists understand no. And a lot of times authors, it's your baby. So if you hear no, I don't want to review this or whatever, it's really hard to accept. So it's really better to have that distance and have a professional do that outreach for you. But that said, if you do have a personal connection to someone in the media, then that's a different story, and that can be okay for the author to contact someone directly. Yeah, I mean, I said you have to be able to accept no. You want to be determined, but also be okay with accepting no with whatever, you're getting that no, and also know that there's always something else you can do. That's the thing about, you know, promoting your book. There's always something else you can do. You're never like, okay, I'm done, and, you know, let all the attention come. There's always something else. This has come up for authors, like don't challenge or refute negative reviews. I'm sure you all have been on Goodreads. That's like can be a really, really nasty area of reviews. People who haven't read the book, who have personal vendettas, all sorts of things. So I really can't emphasize enough, just take the high road. Some authors actually make light of negative reviews, and that's okay depending on who you are. But never engage with anyone who's trashing your book. That's just, it's not going to change it, and it's going to make it worse. So I really say, you know, just thank people who give you good reviews, and just take the high road with anyone who's giving you negative reviews. Yeah, and then just don't be negative about other books and authors. I mean, that might seem obvious too, but it happens, and you know, you may disagree with who they are or what they say, but just don't engage. I mean, we all love books. Let's be positive and be upbeat, and not, you know, not go negative on that. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of what I got for you. I'm happy, you probably have questions, so I'm happy to take questions, and yeah. Want to go?
Okay. For author branding, what is Jodi Picoult's brand? Oops. Social. Uh-oh.
It's right.
An invisible wire.
Yes.
Repeat that question.
Okay.
Now I'll tell all my stories.
Author
Secret stories.
branding,
Yeah.
I agree, is really important.
Yeah.
Put it into a
Yes.
category.
Yes.
What do you think her brand is?
I would say she writes contemporary fiction that kind of
Makes you cry.
yeah, that makes you feel big things. That's very topical. That really kind of intersects with what's going on. So
You mentioned Goodreads briefly.
Yes.
So I often find books I want to read on
Mhm.
Goodreads.
Mhm.
Any thoughts on how Goodreads can work for you?
yeah, I mean, I think you can be on it as a reader. You can connect with followers. You can create lists. You can, as an author, you can build up your page with, you know, you should, and that's something I didn't mention before, just really quickly. In addition to your website, you want to make sure that your Goodreads author page is up to date. So photo, your website, you can put like suggested questions. You can have some sort of engagement with readers on it. So I think you really want to flesh that out. Your Amazon author page, you want to make sure you claim that, which I think it's called Amazon Author Central. There's like a whole sign up thing that you can do. And what was the other one? Oh, BookBub. I don't know if you all are into BookBub, but BookBub can be a really great way to sell ebooks. But that's the same kind of thing where you sign up and then you can claim your author page and populate it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's important to do, but yeah, I mean, I think it's for Goodreads. You want to make sure your page is up to date and keep up. That's the thing. You always have to remember, like, updating all the pages, because there's nothing worse if you go on one of these pages and it's like the bio is way out of date, or it's a photo from 20 years ago, or things like that. So,
If an author wanted to hire a publicist,
yeah.
what would an author expect to pay a publicist?
Yeah, I mean, it really varies, and there are a lot of us out there. There are a lot of us. So, I mean, you could pay maybe you could pay $5K, you could pay $25K. It just really depends on the scope of work and who the publicist is. And you really have to do your homework on that if you decide you want to hire someone, because like I said, there's a lot of publicists out there, and I've heard a lot of horror stories about promises that are made and things that are not done. And so I recommend, getting referrals and looking at who they've worked with, having, interviewing them extensively, and then, and then you have to make your decision. But I will say you get what you pay for, so,
Is that $5K a month?
It can be, or it can be a full campaign. I don't know. I mean, it really varies. And some will do very specific. I'm kind of an all or nothing person. I do full campaigns because when I'm in, and so I tend to just, I determine what the scope of work is and then establish a project fee based on that.
By the way, Dr. Leonard here has his picture on his bookmark. And it's a very stunning picture for a good time call. But his book, Power Tools for Men, and he tells them some of the TV shows you've been on.
Well, we haven't been on TV shows, but we have Jack Canfield, who co-authored, co-created Chicken Soup for the Soul. He gave us a testimonial.
That's great, yeah.
But Leonard was on TED Talk. He had a great time there.
Yeah, TED
Question.
Talks are really great.
Question over here from Nancy Clan.
I'm curious about contacting podcasters.
Yeah,
Is,
that's good.
is that a no-no?
I don't think
For
it.
the author.
Yeah, it's interesting. I went to the podcast panel at VoucherCon, which was very informative, which Maddie was on. And you should answer that, Maddie, but my impression from the panelists is that they're okay with authors contacting. Because I think it's less about, getting in a conversation about whether or not they're going to review the quality of the book, and it's more like, what can we talk about author to podcaster. So.
Yeah, I think it's the same as approaching anybody. Look at what they have on their content, what kind of authors they are. Say, my book is like something, or I saw this your show on with Matt Coyle, and what I write is similar to Matt Coyle. This is my information. Here's an elevator pitch because nobody wants to read the whole synopsis, and here's my contact information. Here's my website, and like Megan said, as long as everything's backloaded, your website looks good, and all those other things, I think they'll probably say, yeah, I'd love to talk to you. So I think that your approach, that's a great question, as long as your approach is solid.
Do you really think there's value in being with other writers at a conference? Because a lot of times they don't buy your book.
Yeah, no, that's great, and I forgot to talk about that. Yes, I think it's, so I had never been to VoucherCon, and I couldn't believe I had never been, because I've been doing publicity for mystery writers for 20 years. And so I was like, I'm in, I'm going for the full 5 days, I'm going to do all the things. And it was incredible networking. It was the access that anyone had at this conference to David Baldacci, and like they were all just, it wasn't like they were kept in this ivory tower. It was really incredible networking. And if you go there with like, okay, I want to sell my book, and with so many things, you should not think that, okay, I'm doing this bookstore And if I don't sell 30 copies, it's a waste. There's so many things you get out of these human contact experiences in terms of networking, in meeting people who, you know, you have fun with and you talk to and you exchange email addresses, and then that person might blurb your next book, or, you know, you're doing an event at Mysterious Galaxy and you need a conversation partner. I mean, and that goes for just doing bookstore appearances too. It can be really great to, you know, you may only have 20 people show up, but so many more people have seen the signage that the store does, or, you know, the advertising they do online, and they may, you know, they may not feel compelled to show up, but hopefully they might buy your book at some other point. So.
A follow-up to that is when there's so many platforms for people to review books
Yeah.
and to make commentary about it, why couldn't you pick a lesser one and really go at them? Because I found there's no such thing as bad publicity.
Meaning, why couldn't you as the author?
Attack them. They attack you, you attack them. Tell them they're a stupid idiot who obviously can't read, didn't have a 6th grade education.
No. Take the high road always.
Devil's advocate over here.
Yeah.
If I said a lesser, you know, you got
Well-
people who have a platform just by putting their name up there. I
It's,
review some books.
I mean, just kind of off that, what I'm seeing, you know, kind of the decline of journalism and the rise of, you know, anyone can be a reviewer.
Yeah.
You know, it's frustrating. Someone will contact me and say, hey, I want to review Broadway Butterfly by Sarah DeVello. I have this, you know, great website, and I look and it looks fine, and I send them a book, and then they post the review, and they're like horrific typos, and I can't, like, what I do as a publicist, when a review runs, I look at it and I go for what's the pull quote, because I want to have a list of like critical praise for Broadway Butterfly. So, you know, I have the Associated Press says it's the best book in the world, or, you know, whatever it is. I pull these quotes, but some of these sites, like, the grammar is so terrible and misspelled, like, I have to rewrite it for them and then say, can you please fix the grammar, and then I can post it. So,
I do
anyway.
have a comment.
Yeah.
I got a review, a 2-star review. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I can yell. Anyway, I got a 2-star review, and because my book had too many words. So too many words. My comment was, my God, I feel like Mozart. Too many notes. And somebody said, you know, you ought to use that in a promo. And I went, you know, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's a stupid review.
Yeah, I mean, if you can do it in a lighthearted way and not in a, you know, negative way, yeah, Lee Goldberg is really good at that. He will, if you follow him on Facebook, he's pretty funny, and he'll put like, some of the funny things that people say about his book. So.
Any questions back here?
Oh, I have.
Yes, up there. I said one thing, Judy's husband and I, Judy Atkins back here, her husband and I found a great place to get personal with writers at a conference was at the bar.
Oh, 100%, yes. Yes,
So-
the bar, yes, but you know.
I'm not kidding.
At
It's
$20 a drink.
20, I know, that is so funny Maddie said that, because I was like, what, how
We
dare
didn't like
this
the
hotel,
speakers,
we're
we go
like
sit
poor
at the bar
writers
and they all would come
charging
out.
$20 a drink, but yeah.
Well, I have a comment. Was that PJ you said you got this?
No, it's somebody else.
Oh, okay, well, anyway, the 2-star, I got a 2-star also because someone said, well, I didn't find out the mystery till the end of the book.
That's so funny though,
But
oh
my
my
real
God.
comments were, things that authors should do is always reply to the emails that your readers send you.
Oh, good one, that
I
is
have done
excellent,
that,
yes.
and I don't get any replies, and I've replied to several that I've developed relationships
Yes.
with, and I've gotten 2 book club signings.
Yes,
And the other one was I do farmers markets, which I swore I would never peddle my books. And I may only sell 8 to 10 books, but I get emails. And I also got 2 more book club signings coming up this month and next month.
Wow, so how do you
I
take,
sit there, I have a whole display, my books are set in the mountains, so I have trees, and I do my books, I have bookmarks, I've made note cards, I have all kinds of swag that I sell, and I get to meet people, and I say, are you a reader? I'm a writer, and so I sell books.
oh, that's a great
Very
idea.
good.
Do you get permission from the market?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
have to,
pay.
you know.
Yeah, so
I
you pay for a spot.
Yeah, and most markets really don't want authors because they don't, it's not exciting, but I found the ones that like me, I go regularly and I sell books.
I love it, that's a great idea.
Tuesday night in Huntington Beach.
Well, Wednesday, I'm doing tonight in Mission Viejo, the night market.
The night market, Tuesday night in Huntington Beach, they have market in the street on Main Street up there, the pier. There's 2 authors that are there. One, she writes children's books, and they have all great stuff they hand out, and she's always selling, but even more so getting names on her
A
list.
lot of work, but
A lot of work.
it's
Yeah.
paying
And
off.
if you're looking for book clubs, go to Meetup. You know, local
Okay.
book clubs, go to
Yeah.
Meetup, go to any places where people can post meetings free, because, you know, book clubs are cheap, just like writers. And so you can go to Meetup or any of those other free meeting places online, and then contact the moderator and, like you said, approach them in a professional way, and do what Christine does, so.
That's a
yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
Okay, did one more?
Well, I just wanted to tell my 2-star story. I believe she didn't like some of the language in the book, but I wrote a blog about getting a 2-star review, and then I posted a 2-star review from Gatsby and from a 2-star review from, you know, To Kill a Mockingbird, etc. So I put myself in the same category as all the classes.
Very smart, very smart, very wonderful.
Okay, can I just ask one question? How do you know, if you're an independent author, if you were going to approach this and write your book, how much would you set aside for marketing and publicity? I mean, if you're, you know, everybody wants to say, I'm going to get the best result, and, you know, now I'm going to turn this over to this professional and become like a debut author, success phenom. So what do you think people should look at and say, realistically, if you're going to do this and you're all in, what do you think you're going to be looking at?
So if you're self-publishing.
Right, self-publishing.
Yeah, so I don't know how accurately I can answer that because I don't work with self-published authors. However, I have worked with a few authors who had hybrid situations where they basically, I mean, it's sort of like glorified self-publishing where they, you know, kind of, it's sort of a legit publisher, but you're paying everything. So, I mean, I've sort of been on the, you know, sidelines watching the author. You know, she paid my fee, she's like paying for advertising. Yeah, so, you know, and advertising it has such a huge spectrum. You can do targeted Facebook ads where you determine what your budget is. You know, if you have $500, you can, you know, parcel that out. Or, you know, you can do, you know, Goodreads ads and Amazon and shelf awareness and whatever it may be. So, you know, sort of the sky's the limit on that. One person who I know who's been in the business forever, MJ Rose, she does Author Buzz. She's really good about putting together marketing packages based on your budget, so she's someone to think about. But
She's a Thriller Fest, right? I met her.
Yeah.
At Thriller Fest.
Yeah, she also writes thrillers. But I just, you know, like I said, I've on the sidelines with authors who are paying for everything, like really being nickeled and dimed by the publishers. Like, okay, you want a Goodreads giveaway, which is what you do, where you can, you know, you're a Goodreads reader and you can sign up to get, you know, an eGalley. Part of the deal being the author has to buy so many of their own books to make it, you know, viable for the publisher. So I think it can really vary.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I just want to say something. Can I stay on the mic for a minute? I just want to thank Megan for her time this morning. She did mention that she doesn't normally represent independently published authors, so she gets nothing out of being here, other than getting to meet this fabulous group. And hopefully when everybody gets on the New York Times bestselling list, they'll call her. Is that right? But do you have a mailing list? Is there anything we can do for you, like give names on mailing lists? And
I don't. I'm sort of under the radar.
Megan,
I'm
you have
sort
to
of
get your email list.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of you know Leslie Klinger. He's up in Los Angeles. He's a mystery editor, but he's he's a super networker. But he at VoucherCon was like, you got to talk to this person, and you got to talk to this person, and I don't, because my business comes all by word of mouth. I know I'm only as good as the projects I'm working on right now. And for example, this is kind of funny because I worked with a debut novelist who lives in Boston several years ago, and she was really happy with my work. And every writer in Boston talks to each other all the time. And so she told all her friends about me. So now these years later, I have like 10 writers in Boston that this SoCal girl is representing. And I'm actually going to go to Boston this fall to the Boston Book Festival, and one of my writers is going to have a brunch for all of Megan Beatie's alumni. So it's just, thank
So
you.
I guess she's living what she's telling us, which is the networking thing is important. So I just really, one more round of thank you for her coming out and sharing the things that she shared. And it sounds like a lot of work, which is why most people don't want to do what you do.
Yeah, well, I love books, and I love what I do. I get up and go to work every day, just really, really happy with what I do.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much. And